Mr. Sharpe, I have two, and I'll take them in reverse order. The least maybe affected of these two teams that they're going to be troubled are the Bucks. And we just talked about the Bucks and how they were internally split all the way up to tip-off of the Orlando game. Is your heart in it? Is it not in it? Back and forth. So it's interesting to me, and maybe not coincidental, they have recently, the last couple of days, fallen from first to third in the odds, the betting odds, the odds makers' odds. Now, Lakers, Clippers are co-favorites. Bucks are just barely third. But still, they were first just a few days back. So is Las Vegas looking at them like, is your heart in it or not? Well, I don't know. You've been around a lot of teams. You know how that internal heart of the team can be broken. It can be lost. And maybe you just don't really feel like playing basketball, which leads me to the team that I picked to win it all, the Clippers. I think they could be even more troubled, and we start with their coach, my favorite coach, Doc Rivers. As we know, he just went viral spilling his guts over the racial justice issues that continue to haunt the black community, to cause such agony and pain and fear in your community. Doc was eloquent and powerful in the message he delivered, but his players heard it too. And they know how his heart is broken. And going to the bubble, was there any team less troubled than or I should say more troubled than the Clippers? About should we, shouldn't we? Is it time to play basketball or not? Lou Williams is on the fence. A number of other players on the fence. Should we even go there and play?
And then you had several players leave the bubble.
You have. For different reasons. We could go all through them. But Lou Williams obviously went to Atlanta, and I don't want to make jokes about it. But he was really on the fence about going to the bubble in the first place. Now we have Paul George, who has issues, cabin fever issues in the bubble, and he went through, as he said, anxiety and depression, maybe in need of some counseling, just stuck in the bubble for a couple of months. And now we even had reportedly Kawhi Leonard, the quiet man, but he was reportedly ready to not play and to end the playoffs on Wednesday night. And then there was the Doc Rivers story of yesterday, and he said they thought it was over. His whole team thought it was over when they walked out of that meeting behind LeBron James on Wednesday night. Of course, he was asking yesterday, well, where are they now? And he said, oh, they want to play. They're really looking forward to it. I can't trust that. After all this team has been through, I can't trust that, Doc. I'm sorry. I wish I could. But here's my final problem with the Clippers. And I still like them as a team, but it was widely reported, your man LeBron James, as he walked out, some Lakers and most of the Clippers followed him out of the meeting. It troubles me because they look to LeBron for the signal of how they should handle it. They were following the leader, who is LeBron James, who's leading both teams. Okay, well, that doesn't feel right to me. You should have your own internal leadership, and I've told you from the start, I'm not sure who the team leader is. Kawhi's not a natural-born leader. Paul George, obviously, to me, he's more complimentary star. He's not the leader emotionally out front of this team. A lot of people think it's Lou Williams, and then he went to Atlanta. Well, did he disqualify himself? Who is the leader? Well, they don't have a leader like LeBron James is clearly the face of the Lakers and the league. So it was troubling to me that they followed him out like he showed them the way. They weren't sure what to do until he showed them what to do. Okay, well, that's obviously your primary competition. You share a building with them in Los Angeles. It was just, it hit me the wrong way. And finally, if we can just go on a purely, simply basketball level, their opponent right now, they're up 3-2, was missing its co-star the other night, Porzingis. I don't know if his knee can get better, but you just gave him, what, three really, if it's going to be tomorrow night. 3 extra days. I think he has a bruised knee. That's what they said. I don't think he's got internal damage.
There's no structural damage.
I don't think so, but they're still doubtful or iffy about whether he'll be able to come back. But they said it did give him a break because he is, to quote Rick Carlisle, 24-hour, round-the-clock treatment to get that knee better. So, again, all of a sudden, I told you early in the bubble when everybody was missing, I'm not sure about this team's psychological place in the bubble right now, and I'm less sure after what just happened.
Well, Skip, for me, I don't believe it's going to hurt anybody more than others. I agree with your last point that it helps Dallas because it seems to me they have the only significant injury. Maybe the Clippers. Patrick Beverly gets a couple of extra days to rest up that calf, and so maybe he's a definite. Right.
Russell Westbrook was on the verge, so maybe he'll be fine.
But as far as hurt, Skip, because I believe everybody's going to get the same amount of rest, and everybody was dealing with the same distraction. Should we or should we not play due to what transpired in Kenosha, Wisconsin?
Yep.
So with that being said, I don't think it hurt anyone. I really don't. I think it only helped a few teams that had significant players injured. As you mentioned, Russell Westbrook, now that quad, because it looks like he was going to play, if I'm not mistaken, on Wednesday.
Well, TNT showed a pregame workout, and it looked like he was going full force to me. I was surprised he didn't play the last game.
Right, so now he has 2 days, so if he doesn't play, so now it's going to be Thursday, Friday, he's going to play Saturday. So he gets 3 full days off that quad to get even more healthy.
Yeah.
Porzingis, that knee, as you mentioned, he's getting treatment around the clock probably every 2-3 hours. He gets 3 days, so now we'll see where he is. Patrick Beverly, that calf, I don't know how much treatment he's getting, but I'm sure rest is helping him. So, Skip, I think everybody was dealing with the same thing, the same external forces that was tugging. What's going on outside of the bubble? How do we, down here, how do we use our platform to keep it in the public's eye and to bring about change? I think everybody's dealing with that same internal conflict right now. And so for me, Skip, I don't think anybody has gained an advantage by what's transpired by not playing. I think a few teams got some advantages by not playing because it allowed a few of their best players to get even closer to being healthy than not. But I don't think anybody lost anything, Skip. Look, I realize that the Lakers had played their best game in the bubble. The Clippers had played their best game in the bubble. But it's hard for me to see, Skip, do we really think that Portland's going to win 3 games without Dame Lillard? Is that what we believe?
And he went home.
Exactly.
I mean, he's gone. He's not even there to cheer them on.
So even if he wanted to turn the jet around Ministry, he still would have to be in quarantine for 4 days.
He's gone out.
So he's done. So with that being said, Skip, I really don't, honestly, I don't think anybody is at a disadvantage. I think everybody's under the same umbrella for the simple fact they're going to have the same amount of rest time and they were dealing with the same issues. What was transpiring, not only what transpired, I believe it was Sunday in Kenosha, but what is transpiring still in America.
Well, for the Lakers' sake, it's another advantage, I think, for the Lakers because what's left of Portland, I thought maybe they could dredge up some underdog fight the other night if they'd gone on the scheduled at, what was it going to be, 9 p.m. Eastern? Now you take a team that's probably sick and tired of the bubble, and you made them stay for what feels the inevitable closeout game, right?
Yes.
And that's a 1-2-3 Cancun game, right? Here we go.
Yes. I just don't see how you lose 30 points. Your best player, there's no question he's their best player. And the last couple of games, Skip, they've kind of gotten blown out.
Kind of like a lot.
So I don't know. And think about it. It took a Herculean effort in game 1. Because, as you said, they were behind in the middle part of the fourth quarter, and even it came down to, like, the very end of the ball game. So now you remove that, your leader, your best player, and somehow you're going to win 3 games without your best player.
No, they know.
Exactly.
And they're not happy that they had to sit in those hotel rooms for an extra 3
There are a lot
nights.
of people that, because Dane posted yesterday a picture of him and his son on a private jet, they're like, show we on that jet with you, Dave.
Right.
Headed to Portland or wherever you're going.
Well, they're going to be on a jet soon.
Yeah, it won't be. Well, it will be private. It'll be their own charter.
Their team charter. Yep.
All right, guys. I want to keep talking about the decision the league made to keep playing, and someone interesting who was involved in that. Michael Jordan was reportedly the voice of reason between the two sides. As the majority owner of the Hornets, MJ reached out to Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook to understand what the players wanted moving forward. During a virtual owners meeting yesterday, MJ reportedly told the other owners, quote, "Right now, listening is better than talking." Shannon, what do you make of MJ's role in all of this?
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's probably universally idolized by most of the guys, especially in that bubble, Skip. A lot of the NBA player, he's it. He's not to be sacrilegious, but Skip, he's the Jesus. If you play basketball, he's it. And a lot of players feel that he's it. So he's unique because he played the game, Skip, and played the game at an extremely high level. Universally, a lot of people say he's the greatest. Okay, fine. For this argument, he's the greatest. Now he's the only African-American owner. So he gets to wear two hats. He's like, now he's talking to Chris Paul. Chris Paul is an endorsee of Brand Jordan.
He is.
So is Russell Westbrook.
And he talked to both of them.
And he's asking, okay, bro, what y'all want? What you looking for? And Chris Paul, in talking with LeBron James and maybe some of the other guys, says, look, Mike, we need Steve Ballmer worth $70 billion. We need him to use some of them contacts. We need guys that are worth $3, $4, $5, $8 billion to use contacts. It's not, and don't get me wrong, don't think we're not appreciative of you giving money to worthy causes in the communities. But the one cause that we really need is police reform. If we can get that, that is the first step. Can you do that? Can you use those contacts? Can you billionaires? Can you reach out to attorney generals? Can you reach out to DAs? Can you reach out to mayors and your states and local senators? Can you do that for us and ask them to get legislation, policing reform? Can we get that? That's what we need, Mike. And we we appreciate the slogans. We appreciate the symbols. But now we need some substance. Because, Skip, I don't care how fancy the cake, does the cake taste good? You put all that icing. Oh, it's Oreo icing, it's vanilla, and we use this and we use that. Does the cake taste good? Okay, Black Lives Matter and say her name and how many more and vote reform and all that. The substance is what we need from these owners to reach across the aisle to get policies enacted that help these underserved communities. That's what we need, Mike. And Mike says, guys, y'all trying to talk over them. You're not trying to hear them. Right now, let's listen. Let them talk.
Let them talk.
We listen, and then we come up with a plan of how we can best help them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. Because, Skip, there ain't no guarantee you won't be in the bubble again in December or January.
That's a fact.
And you're going to be down there with all 30 teams. So before we go start talking about we don't want to hear what they got to say, we might be in this very predicament again in 6 months. So let's hear what they have to say and what's the best plan of action that we can help these young men and help out America.
All very interesting. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan's. Had the honor and privilege of covering him in Chicago back in the late 90s, the Last Dance year, 1998. And I watched closely his evolution post-career. When I first saw the headline on Jackie McMullen's piece on ESPN.com, I wanted to read too much into it. I wanted it to be that he was the saving grace figure, like he saved the season. The more I read of it, I'm not sure he saved the season. Was he a little bit of a mediator, a facilitator, just because he's, to me, the greatest player ever? Yes, he was. He's an owner who was the greatest player ever. So he's the only African-American owner, but he didn't just play. He really played.
It's just if he called, how you not talk to Mike? If that guy called your phone, how you gonna say, nah, I ain't talking about it, hang up?
And to your point, both Chris and Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, they work for Jordan Brand and they're paid a lot of money. So yes, they're going to take the call. And I checked before the show just to make sure because I couldn't remember what year was Chris born. He was 1985. Russell was 1988. So yes, in their formative basketball years, he was rolling. Man.
Chris Paul was 13 when Michael last year in Chicago. So
it would have dramatic impact. Some of the younger players today, they just don't, they last danced, like, oh, that's who the guy was. So I do think he played a minor significant role, but it was a significant role because he could explain to the owners, this is the mentality. This is where their heads are right now, and this is where your heads all better be if you want this to calm down so that you can resume. And it did. And by the way, speaking of contacts, Michael Jordan's got some contacts
Yeah.
out there. So,
Yes.
so he could
Yes.
pull some strings,
Yes.
right? So what do we know about The Last Dance? Michael Jordan was often criticized, even condemned as a player because of his lack of social stance.
Yes.
He avoided it at all literal costs, right? Because he didn't want to cost himself one penny of Nike money by taking a stand that would offend anybody.
Right.
The old quote, Republicans buy sneakers too. Okay, we get it. He says, I didn't really say that. And some
He said, I said it, yes. Yeah, I'm saying it, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Hey, you know Republicans buy sneakers too.
But heart of hearts, I think that's pretty much where his heart and head were as in his prime of his basketball career. He just, and I talked to him about it when he was a player. He would just always, what LeBron would say occasionally, I just don't know enough.
Right.
He had no interest in politics.
Zero.
He had no interest in anything outside that arena and that round ball.
Yeah.
That was his whole life. He was obsessed with it, maybe to a fault. And yet, this Jordan that I'm watching now, as he ages, there's a sadness to him because he looks back on his former self.
I believe you're right.
And it hurts.
Yes.
And he said before the doc dropped, he said, when you see some of the footage of me, you're going to think of me as a horrible guy. When he's getting on Scotty Burrell, obviously, and it gets mean-spirited.
Right.
I defended it. You had some issues with it. You wouldn't have taken it if you had been a teammate, obviously.
Right.
But that's the way he did it.
Right.
And it worked for him and it worked for them.
Right.
But he looks back on it now, and I think it sort of horrifies him. What was I? That was me?
Right.
Yep. You had a rage to win championships.
Skip, I think the thing is, I believe that when it comes to certain things, that Michael was always morally conscious. He knew that some of the things that were going on was wrong.
Yep.
But socially, Skip, you knew back then, if you spoke out of turn, endorsers dropped you automatically.
Yep.
No question, no, none of this, well, we're going to see what's going on. Boom, that was it. And Michael was trying to build a brand.
Yep.
The best way I can build a brand is to be as Switzerland as possible, as neutral as possible. I don't say this, I don't say that. Everybody, everybody is one community might be saying we need you to say more, but the other community is like, well, he's saying just enough. And so Michael took that approach. As he looks back, maybe if I'd have spoke out, because I am Michael Jordan, maybe if I'd have spoke out, maybe some things could have been different. And I think sometimes he plays that back in the back of his mind, Skip, is that, maybe I should have, because remember, Craig Hodges tried to get Michael and Magic to boycott the NBA Finals.
Game one.
In
Chicago.
When Rodney King situation.
It was right after it. Yes.
So
in the throes of it.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
it was.
And then, are you?
That's an interesting point. That was going to be now. That's a boycott. That's game one of the finals.
NBA Finals. Yes. Now that's a message.
Yes.
So I think.
And by the way, both Michael and Magic said no.
Right.
No.
and Skip, really back then, unless they took your livelihood away, you didn't. I mean, Ali, they took it. He's like, no, I'm not going. And they took his livelihood away, but he was standing on the principle, this is my religion. I don't believe, I live in America. Them Viet Cong ain't did nothing to me. They ain't turned no water holes. They ain't turned no dogs on me. They don't deny me the ability to come into a restaurant or anything. But you really gonna kill him?
I got no quarrel with them.
Yeah, he said the Viet Cong ain't calling me no in. He say so, but I think Michael looks back as like, maybe there are some things that he should have, because a lot of times athletes don't, especially when you're that good, Skip, you become so selfish, you dedicate all your time to your craft, like Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to look back and not going to have 1 ounce of regret about his playing career because, Skip, he's done everything. He's eaten, he's trained to be this. But Michael...
But Tom, maybe with a daughter or a son, might say, I should have been there.
Maybe there's a recital I should have went to. But Skip, when you get to that level, you're going to miss something. You resign to that fact. You have to become selfish. You have to have a partner that's willing to understand that. Because we've heard rumblings about Giselle like Tommy.
Oh, definitely.
You need to come home, bro. I need some help. I need some help around here.
They, according to all those rag magazines, as Ernestine calls them, they've had a troubled marriage at different points because of what you just talked about.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, but like you said, Skip, he is very unique. You talking about the player at the high, and now he's an owner, and he is like, this is their mentality. This is what they're thinking. But he also says, Chris Paul, this is what them other 29 white guys thinking too now.
That's right.
So
That is right. And that's good.
Yes.
So he could mediate it from a powerful position that's going to be respected by both sides.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because guess what, Skip? Even though every NBA owner probably has more money than Michael Jordan, but don't none of them know, people outside of that don't know him like they know that guy. Steve Ballmer is the wealthiest owner in all sports, 70+ billion.
Yep.
Steve Ballmer walked down the street.
No.
That guy ain't walking down the street.
He ain't walking down the street. So obviously, he's trying to make up for some lost time.
Yes.
He's trying to pay back some.
Yes.
And this was an opportunity for him to try to get both sides, to see both sides of the issue.
Yes.
And it feels like it worked in part because of his contribution. I'm not going to give him full credit for it, but in part that he did that.
Yes, Skip, I'm a firm believer it's never too late to do the right thing. Yeah. And, he donated, Brand Jordan donated $100 million over a 10-year period.
$10 million a year.
And you remember and he spoke out.
You
remember at the George Floyd, he says, I'm tired of it. I'm tired. Which is more than we had ever heard from him.
Yep.
So I think this is weighing on him because Mike realized, hey, I got two young black men myself.
He does. Yep. Good point.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.